How's it, data firm? Welcome to part 6 of our Excel fundamentals for data analysts. Now today we are going to be learning how to use VLOOKUPs, right? So VLOOKUPs are a very useful tool, especially for doing data analysis within Excel. If you're new, do not forget to subscribe and like so that more people can actually see content like this. So before wasting any time, let me just get into it. Now, the first thing that you want to do is to upload the dataset into Excel. So I've attached the link to this dataset, right? So you guys can actually, it's the same dataset that we've been using throughout the exercise, right? What you need to do basically is that you need to make sure that you copy and paste it from it, because it's actually sitting in CSV and this is an Excel format. You want to copy it and paste it into this, or you can use the different import methods that I actually showed you. I think it was the second episode, right? So you can actually use that to import the dataset, or you can just copy and paste it over to Excel, right? So this is the dataset I'll be using, and over here what I've done, I just copied this and pasted it here because I wanted to use it for the demonstration purposes that we're going to be working on today, right? Cool. So now the first thing you want to do, if your dataset is not in the table format, so if you copied and pasted, it won't be in table format, but if you imported it, it might be in table format. The first thing you want to do, right, is you need to change this into a table. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select anywhere and I'm going to say format as table over here. This is an option available to everyone, format as table. And you can just choose whatever colors you want. I'm just going to choose, let's just go for purple. And just check that it's actually highlighting the entire data set, right? Cool. My table has headers. Yes, my table does have headers because the headers are there. And I'm going to say, okay, now we have got our data set like that. I'm just going to change this because I don't like the color, honestly. I'm just going to change the color to, let's say, white, so that it's more visible. Okay, now it feels more visible, right? Great. So now we've got our table here that's been converted. We've got our data set being converted to the table. Now, if you were asked to check people's salaries, right? So I'm going to do this to make this much more nicer, right? Cool. So now you can see that you've got a list of employees, right? Employee 1, 2, and 3, and you've been given a list to confirm everyone's salary, right? So you could actually go and manually type down everyone's salary, but there's a lot of data. So now imagine you've got millions of record. That won't be feasible. So one of the ways you can actually use a VLOOKUP, right? You can just go over here and say equals to. I'm going to say VLOOKUP. So the moment you type VLOOKUP, so first thing equals to, then you type the VL, you're going to see the full VLOOKUP formula. Once you click on it, you get the full syntax. So they actually do guide you on how you can complete it, right? Which I think is really great, right? So your lookup value is going to be this column over here, the column where you want to bring the data to, right? Not the source, but where you want to bring the data to. That is going to be your lookup value, right? Your table array here is basically the data set that's sitting over here, but be very careful, right? The first thing you must do, you must put this semicolon, thing is called the semicolon, right, before you actually put in the other details. Otherwise you will get an error, like it will actually give you some sort of error. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to highlight this entire table over here, right, because I basically want to get the information from this table. Now that table has been selected, I'm going to put the comma. So now you've got the lookup value, right? So you got the lookup value. You've specified the table where you're getting your information to. Now the next thing is that you need to put the semicolon again. And once you put the semicolon, now what you need to do is you need to specify the column index number. Now the column index number is basically asking you, what number is the column that you're trying to get data from, right? So remember, we want to get the salary. The salary is here. So what number is salary? You have to start counting from A, B, C, D, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is actually number 9. There we go. Then you have to put the semicolon again, but this time around you're putting the range lookup. So this is basically saying, is it true or false? Look, you want to say false because false is going to give you the exact match. So the match is going to be based on this employee ID, and we'll go to check the employee ID that exists here and just make sure that it's actually giving you the right information, right? So I'm going to say false because it's actually the exact match, right? Then I'm going to close these brackets and I'm going to say okay. Now let's verify this. You can see that this employee number 1 actually is a salary of this amount, right? Now, if we do, you can either drag this down, right, like this, which actually works. You can do it all the way to the end, but to save ourselves time, we can just double click, right, and it just continues all the way to end. We can even verify 50. So 50 is 12 something. Let's see if we've got 50 somewhere here. Where is 50? I think I saw 50 somewhere at the top. There we go. There is 50, and the salary actually matches. And it's not just numbers, right? So you can do it for the city and whatever, but the nice thing is, because we already have this formula, what you can do, remember the city is number 8. You could just go over here. You go to number 8. Then you say enter. Then it would actually update, right? So it really it's all about really changing the what is this thing? It's really about changing the column number, because number 8 is actually this. If you changed it over and over, you would even get the gender of the people and stuff like that. You are actually saving yourself time instead of having to type it manually, right? But I'm just going to go back to our numbers there. Cool. Now I'm going to use the second method. Now this is another way of you writing a VLOOKUP, and I feel like this is much more user-friendly and much more easy for most people, because it's much more, you don't have to type a lot, right? So I'm going to demonstrate the other way. So I'm going to say equal VL, right? I'm still typing the same VLOOKUP formula. This time around, instead of typing it as it is here, I'm going to go over here. You can see there's a formula bar. I'm going to click on the formula bar on this FX, whatever, and then it creates this build up bar over here, right? I think if you're using a Windows, it might just appear somewhere over here, but for different applications, it will appear just closer, right? But this would be very much similar. So for VLOOKUP value, same concept. It's this one. The table array is actually this table that we've got over here, right? And I select this table. Column index number, remember we are looking for number 9 because the column is number 9. Lookup range, we have to type this time and say false. And once you're done, you can say done. Now you can see that it is also the same way that you can actually do this. Now, one thing that's important, you don't have to only write it in the same place, but you can also write it in different other places, right? It's really important to note that. So you can actually create a new worksheet over here, and I'm gonna copy this, all right, and I'm gonna paste it over here. Now I'm gonna write the very same formula, VLOOKUP, right? I'm gonna use it my way that I preferred. Lookup value, I'm gonna select that. Table array, you have to go to that worksheet that is the data, right? You have to go to the worksheet and you have to do the same thing, select it. So you're not really restricted by the place, by the one sheet. You can actually do it across multiple. Then I'm going to say 9 and I'm going to say false. There we go. The same information also does work. There you go. Now, there's another technique of actually using VLOOKUPs, right? Now, let's say you wanted to verify the list of employees, right? Now, what I'm going to do is you want to see if there's any employee that is on this list that is not on the other list. Now, let me do something really cool. I'm going to clear out the contents here, right? And I'm going to basically insert and do another insert here just for demonstration. I'm going to add 1,000 and I'm going to add 2,000. Now, what this is going to do is going to give us an error here. So if these employees are on this list but are not on the other list, it's going to give us an error. Or if it's the other way around, where to say employees that are on this list are also not found on the other list, or employees that are on that list are not found on this list, it actually gives you an error. So it's a good way for you to compare two different data sources to see if there's anything missing. So a lot of people use it for testing if something was migrated correctly, but let's just do a demonstration. So I'm going to use this VLOOKUP. I'm sure by now you already see how the VLOOKUP works. And this time I'm going to select the formula. I feel like it's much more efficient. And I'm going to say employee ID, table array. I'm going to go back to the very same table, right? And I'm going to make sure that I've selected everything over here. And once I've selected everything, column number, I am gonna, now what I'm trying to do now is to check if there's any employee IDs that are there that are not here. All right, so This time around, I'm going to say 1 because the employee ID is actually the first column. That's why I'm saying 1. So you see how the numbering system changes. And I'm going to say false. And I'm going to say done. Now, 1 appears because 1 does exist, but let's go further. We're getting NA here because remember, this is a data set that we recently created that do not exist over there. So this is really a cool way of using VLOOKUPs. But in general, if you were asked to write a VLOOKUP, this is how you basically would write a VLOOKUP. Hopefully this video was useful to anyone who would like to use VLOOKUPs. Just remember, first thing, change your data set into a table. And after that, you can start writing your VLOOKUPs. I will see you guys on part 7. Please make sure that you like and subscribe so that more people can see this content.